And welcome to HRBC show called Let's Talk. Before we begin, I have some things to talk about. Um, if you have not received any emails from the Hampton Roads Black Caucus ever, and you are a member of the Hampton Roads Black Caucus, please, please, please let us know because that is how our ballots are going to go out for you to vote for who we're going to endorse. So if you have never received an email from us, then that's a problem. So now's the time to let us know. Hey, I've never received any emails. You can contact us here. You can contact us at the email address hrbcsupport@hamptonroadsblackcaucus.com and let us know because once the voting starts and it stops, that is the wrong time to be like, hey, I never got my ballot because we can't get you in there anymore. Voting will be closed. So please let us know. So today, Virginia Beach has um, quite a few candidates. You got two for Ward 4. And today our guest is Mr. Ken Lubeck. And we are going to find out why he may be the right choice for your school board. Welcome. Hey,
Hey,
would you like
thanks.
to tell us a little about yourself?
Sure. So in 1986, I moved here. I was in the Navy. I was a corpsman and got put on a ship and did that for 2 years and then got out, went to TCC, got two associates, and then I went over to ODU, and then I went over to Regent and got my master's. And when I graduated, I moved into Compostela Square in the projects on purpose to see if I could make a difference. And I worked with Refuge Church of God in Christ over there, Pastor Williams. And we started an after school program and did that until they finally demolished, and it was about a year, they demolished the rest of the public housing there. Those were very old. And so that was a great experience and just ran an after school program. And I also got introduced to a gentleman who was from the Family Channel who was running an organization called Youth Entertainment Studios, which was running summer camps teaching um, music and video production. And I said, well, I wanted to start a computer lab at Refuge because there weren't at that time, this is 1995, there aren't any computers, and there's this internet revolution, and I'm working in IT, and these kids don't have computers, they don't have access to them. And he said, well, and when I saw what he was doing, I said, this is perfect because getting kids excited about learning how to use Microsoft Word and PowerPoint is not
Yeah.
that exciting. But working on a music video, which he had already done, and working on music, they actually got the funds and they had a full studio. Refuge gave their fellowship hall. I mean, how many churches do that? They gave their fellowship hall to build out a studio, and they had to limit the number of kids that wanted to be involved as an after-school program because all of them wanted to be involved. And it was great team building and working on a project and learning how to market your music. And then we even did stuff like how to do an interview. We didn't require that the music be positive because that's not where some of them are at.
Mm-hmm.
It had to be radio friendly. It had to be respectful. You can't talk about somebody's mama if you don't want them to talk about your mama like that.
Yeah.
And it had to be real. You couldn't make up a bunch of gangster stuff if you never experienced any of it. You could talk about real life, and if you're upset, that's fine. If you're mad, and it was great. It was like music therapy, But they also learned how to work with Pro Tools, which is a music production software, and it was fantastic. And then we created curriculum and got it out to about 5 different locations. And I got moved out to California to be a founder of a startup, and I spent about 14 years out there and started a family and did that, and then moved back about 8 years ago to Virginia Beach. I had previously lived in Chesapeake and Portsmouth when I lived here previously, and continued to work in IT. And daughters, once they got into high school, I just started to pay attention to kind of what was going on in the schools, and they were telling me things. And um, what got my attention last year was if you take out the scores of the academies in Virginia Beach, you uncover some problems.
Hmm.
And there's a discrepancy amongst the high schools, which are regional or location high schools, if you take the academies out of the equation. And you literally have twice as many kids reading below their reading level at Bayside than at First Colonial, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Incoming ninth graders reading level, not at ninth grade. It's 35% at First Colonial and it's 65% at Bayside. And I just thought, that's me back when I was in high school, because I didn't become a good student until I became an adult and paid for it myself. I just
Mm-hmm.
didn't study that much. And so I identified with your average student. But when I went to high school, being average, I learned enough to where when I got serious, I could do it. But if we're going to allow kids to 65% of kids to be below their reading level, and I don't know where are they going to be at, what are their education tools going to be when they graduate high school. So that got my attention, and then just saw what was going on with the school board and went, wait a minute, there's a huge budget in Virginia Beach. This doesn't make sense. But we can
Mm-hmm.
get into the questions and everything. That just gives you a background of kind of what motivated me, what I've been doing for a while. I've been in IT for 21 years. Um, like I said, I've created curriculum, but really the IT piece is, I think, extremely valuable because I've worked with diverse teams of people on problems to solve them. And whether it's a bug or producing a piece of software for a customer, you have to successfully execute, and you have to look at where are the problems, how do you solve the problems, how do you make something work. As opposed to, I think there are degree programs where there's no real problem solving skills needed. You
Mm-hmm.
read the books and you take the tests. And it always shocks me. There's people who you throw a problem out to them and they just go, I don't know. And they don't, whereas my brain, I'm weird like that. I'll think about a problem, I'll sleep over it, and I'll be like, hey, I thought about this last week and I think I have an idea about a direction we should go in. So I like to solve problems, and I think there's some problems in Virginia Beach public schools.
Okay. All right. So I got some questions for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So throughout the Hampton Roads, we've heard over and over again that there is major problems with the special needs classrooms. So how would you improve special education in the school system?
I'm going to turn on my light too. So in Virginia Beach, I think the biggest problem is the fact that there's not enough resources in the hands of the classrooms, the people taking care of the kids. I think the percentage that's going towards administration is it's 65% of the budget, which is $1 billion. And
Hmm.
I think you could take 10 or 15% of that. I know. So if you work for administration in Virginia Beach, you're not going to probably want to vote for me. So, but if you're a teacher, and even if we disagree on certain things, I want to support the teachers, because the teachers are in all of them, especially special needs kids, and especially teachers who are dealing or working with at-risk youth, kids that are kind of on the edge. COVID really messed them up. It set them back. Some of these kids missed a whole year, and last year they're not caught up by any means. And I just don't think there's enough resources for the special needs teachers, and we need to make sure that they have the support they need. I can only speak to Virginia Beach, but I would imagine that if you talk to special needs teachers, they're going to tell you, I need more say in what my typical day is, and not be bogged down with a bunch of requirements, and be a little more free to do what I think is best, because I am trained, and I need more resources, and I need assistance to take care of these kids. And I feel for them. I mean, that's God's work. When you start working with special needs kids, it's serious. My mom did a little bit back when I was a kid, but it's I've mainly worked with at-risk youth, but when I worked at the Pines, um, before I moved out to California, I didn't mention that. But yeah, I think it's resources, and it depends on the particular school. What I've noticed is that different principals and assistant principals, you get a full range of quality.
Mm.
And if you don't have a good principal, you're not going to be supported, and you're going to get frustrated, and you may not have. I'm sure I know in Virginia Beach the resources are being, I think, put too much into bureaucracy and not into the classroom. So that would help them.
Okay. All right. So there seems to be a disconnect between African American children and their guidance counselors when it comes to college and college guidance and scholarships. What ideas do you have to overcome that?
So we need to always be recruiting more teachers that are people of color, and different types of people from all over, and that would require that you pay the teachers well. The guidance counselors, we need to make sure that they're trained to do their job and not to look at a kid's grades. We certainly don't want any racism coming out of these, and that's going to be from training, and also making sure you don't have somebody in there that's going to judge a book by its cover and have some kind of prejudice. That's awful. Um, the other piece of that is just knowing where to find the scholarships. And I know there's my daughters, their mom is families from Jamaica, so they can check the box for scholarships that are Black. That so there is more scholarships for people of color. So there's those counselors need to know about them, and so there's really no excuse. Especially, I have mixed feelings about dropping SAT scores for college.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how that works out. Maybe it'll be fine. But that's a reality right now. There's a lot of schools you don't need an SAT score, so they're going to look at your grades. Um, that's just for admissions, but for specifically for scholarships, there's billions of dollars out there, and I don't know what the excuse is. I don't think I can't imagine. I think it's got to be training and just making sure that all the kids are being treated fairly. But yeah, there's more scholarships out there for them. There's a lot of money out there. It does take work, and that's maybe part of the problem. I don't know. Maybe the counselors aren't being supervised to do that extra work, because it's not easy. It takes a lot of time to find the right scholarship for the right person, and it's going to require parents and the kids to be involved in that as well. So they just need to know, hey, you need to spend 5 or 10 hours a week for the next 6 months diving into scholarships, and give them the tools to do that. There is some resources in Virginia Beach that I found. I'm going to find out real soon, because one of my daughters is a senior, about at Bayside, about getting those. And I know the counselor's going to have a meeting with all the seniors. So far, I'm not impressed, but something needs to happen quick, because she's a senior.
Yeah. Okay. So when I was in school, we read To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. My generation seems to have turned out pretty okay. How do you feel about the current new fad to start removing books from school libraries that depict real issues of the past and present?
I have no problems with books being in the schools that depict real life. I think there's a few subjects that, if you go into graphic detail, would not be appropriate for a 12 or 13-year-old or 14-year-old. And I think that's where it would be fine for parents to sign off on, at least kind of as a baseline of, let parents sign off on, I do or don't want my child reading this book that has graphic depictions of a father raping his daughter. Like that's the kind of books that some of these books have. It's like real serious, like getting into it. Or another one where there's orgies involved and different things with all the foul language. But it's not. It's like if you made a movie about it, it wouldn't even be R. It would be X or and not rated. It would be serious. So this isn't the classics or some of the things that we saw when we were kids. Some of this is almost like, and then there's other books where there's pictures in it, where there's pictorials of sex acts and things. And it, I really, on that kind of stuff, I think there should be some kind of a standard because we do, even for video games, there's, hey, we can't sell you this video game because you're not 16.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think it's okay for cities or communities or counties to decide, hey, we have kind of a baseline that we consider this to be not appropriate for children or kids under 16. I mean, once you're 16, I'm not sure, but I default to the parents. I think that's one of the things I've noticed is, and I know there are some crazy parents and teachers have run into them, so it's easier just not to deal with parents. But the reality is those are our kids and we need to be able to be involved. And give input and say, hey, wait a minute, why are you teaching this, or what's going on here, and just understand it, or say, hey, I'm not for that, or and teachers don't get to dictate what's being taught, but at the school board level, you do get to say, hey, we're not going to focus on this stuff. We want to, and my focus is really how do you equip the kids for their future, and
Mm-hmm.
not get into some of the, I just want to stay out of politics and ideology. I think school is school. Kids can learn about whatever they want to learn about, just about anywhere. I mean, they do have access to almost everything. So I am aware of, we're living in 2022. I'm not trying to be a prude here, but I'm trying to. I would default to parents, especially. I mean, I don't think that kids that grow up in a more traditional Christian or Muslim family should feel completely uncomfortable and not be able to ever say anything and be ostracized for not holding certain views on things. Like there needs to be, we're in a pluralistic society. We have people that believe very different things. So that's why I default to the parents. Like they want their kids to opt out of stuff that would be considered beyond R-rated. I don't think that's extreme. I don't think that's being a book burner, you know. So it's not the biggest issue to me, but I do think that parental rights and parents feeling like they're being heard is very important. And there are people in the education system who thinks, oh no, all parents are the problem. We just need to be able to do what we're going to do, and we're going to teach them whatever we're going to teach them, and say whatever we're going to say, and we're going to bring them along this path. And you guys need to be quiet. And no, parents can speak up, and they can vote in a school board that represents them.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You're talking about this earlier. Do you have any ideas on how to encourage the hiring of more African American teachers?
So I think the teachers, I know in Chesapeake, they gave the teachers, I think, a 10% raise. I know they gave somewhat of a raise last year in Virginia Beach, but I would look at that and make sure it's compatible with other areas within 20 miles of here or whatever, to be competitive, so that when you do go to universities and you're looking at new teachers and you're going to Hampton University in the education department, and there's some juniors and seniors there, and you have a table for Virginia Beach Public Schools, people want to talk to you. They don't go, oh, I don't want to work there. Or, so what's the pay? And they start listening to other, because it's competitive. I was just told I went and toured the one high school that's in my district is the Renaissance Academy. And the two high schools that are on the border of my district are Princess Anne and Bayside, both of which are going to be, those buildings are going to be replaced in the next 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
But the Renaissance Academy, Mr. Miller, who's got 38 years experience in educating kids, and I think is from all everything I see, he looks, he's very qualified and really cares about the kids. And he said back in the day when I interviewed for teachers, I could interview like 7 teachers for one job,
Hmm.
because now teachers are got multiple offers. Like, you got to offer them the job right away, because it's it's a it's a buyer's market. It's the teachers get to decide where they want to go. So we have to go to not just HBCUs, but and really make sure we're focusing in on, hey, let's recruit more teachers of color and men too, because there's a lot of women, but half the students are men, and it's always good to have. I think good male role models are always a good thing, just like good female role models are a good thing.
Okay. What is your plan for keeping our schools safe?
So in Virginia Beach, we have an officer at every high school and every middle school, but the elementary schools, there's not one at every single one. There's like one that is at a particular middle school. At a particular elementary school on any given day, and he might have 2 or 3 or 4 that he has to bounce around to. Like on Monday, he'll be at one, Tuesday, he'll be at a different one. So I think there needs to be one at every elementary school, because that has worked. And I have talked to, and I know there's other things there's stuff that's going on with Virginia Police Department and incidents. I'm not here to talk about those things because I don't know enough. I have my opinions. We'd probably agree on most of that. I did talk to some officers of all different backgrounds, and I asked them after the Texas shooting, I'm like, what the heck? Like, what would you guys do? He goes, oh no, we're trained to go in.
Hmm.
We have a school where we actually have trained on this, and if there's even 1 or 2 of us, we're going in. There's no waiting. I said, good. If you've been trained and you guys have practiced like different scenarios, that's really important, just in case, So I think always reevaluating the building, but I would just make sure every school is covered, so that the crazy people know that there's somebody in that school that is trained and is going to stop you. That they have to know that. They can't believe there's soft targets. I always thought that the sign that says this is a gun-free zone just doesn't. I mean, whatever the rule is in a particular place, that's fine. But putting that sign up just doesn't make sense to me.
Hmm.
It's like an advertisement for a crazy person. This is a soft target. Sorry, I just think like that. I'm like, what is that? How does that help? I mean, we all want to live in a safe society, and we don't. I mean, America has had a lot of guns for a long time, and that is definitely not a subject that I can touch on in terms of vote on. I can vote myself, but it's not anything I would make decisions on. So I have to deal with what I'm dealing with, and you have to make this. I want to make the schools as safe as my bank,
Hmm.
safer than my bank, a big
Hmm.
bank where there's somebody standing there saying, no, you're not going to do this.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. All right. So, my next question: children are starting to be groomed in schools to be okay with being sexually harassed, being felt on their bottoms, being talked to explicitly. When they complain to staff, nothing is being done about it. Do you have any thoughts on how that can be changed?
Yes, that has to be changed. I don't like. I mean, what was the sex ed that we had when we were kids? I'm gonna bring it all into, like, we had basically biology and I had a little other stuff where they talked about the bases and stuff, but there was not like, it seems like there's there's a need for some teachers or someone to do a lot more of that. So there's like a lot more um the kids are exposed to a lot more sexual content everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And some people's solution is to do more educating and talking about it in the school. My thing is to focus in on what your question is, which is that's terrible. Sexual harassment should be treated the same as bullying. And in Virginia Beach, there's like no bullying policy, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
a really big deal. If somebody gets, hey, this person's bullying, that's supposed to be a really, they're supposed to come down on them. And it depends on the school. You have different, I've noticed, and that's one of the things I would want to change is we have to have standard procedures at all the schools. Once we've decided something, you can't have one principal do one thing, another one's ignoring those type of complaints, and another one maybe I don't know of any that overreact. I mean, if a kid, that's got to be dealt with. The boys cannot feel like, and it's boys or girls should not feel like they can just say anything and be inappropriate to the point where the kid's uncomfortable. And we just have to have enough resources to investigate that and to really stop it. And those kids there have to be consequences for it. It's a tough one because it's usually going to happen when there's no adults listening, and you're going to have to get into a situation where the victim is having to tell responsible adults what happened, and then there has to be a way to intervene, and it's got to be similar to the bullying policy, which is always talked about. And this is just, it's inappropriate to make boys or girls feel uncomfortable and turned into, getting, like you said, groomed. It's bad. They're
Yeah.
exposed to it. I think TikTok, my daughters use it, and I know the kind of stuff that's on TikTok, and it's not okay. I don't think some of it's fine. But they're getting exposed. This is a different world
Mm-hmm.
for them, and we need to protect them.
Okay. Tell us your top 3 goals you would like to accomplish if elected.
Okay, so one is, like I said, the administrative budget's about 65% of that $1 billion. I would like to move 10 or 15% from administration into the classroom. The teachers need more support. A bunch of the kids are behind. There is a discrepancy amongst African American kids' reading levels and math levels in the schools right near where I live. African American kids versus white kids. That 6%. I was looking at one school; it was 6%. District wide, it was like 20%. We need resources to fix that. That you can't just leave that alone or expect. You can't just use words like equity in a PowerPoint and go, oh, equity, 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 and then no, that's the problem. It's the 6% and the 20%, and you have to figure out why it's happening, and then you have to institute solutions for that. So that's what I would do with that. A lot of that extra money is make up that difference. Also, and that directly affects my district. My district, by the way, was created. If you don't know the kind of the history of this, is a new district, and
Mm-hmm.
it's underserved community district. And so I'm here for the people of this district, and it's not the same. And we're building these new schools that are going to serve this community. And when I hear people talk about we need to save money on building this school, I said there's a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
The first problem is you built Kellum over there in that wealthy neighborhood for $142 million 10 years ago, and now you're wanting to tell these working class people that they can't spend that much money on a high school. That's not going to fly. And I don't have a problem looking at it because for Bayside it's going to be $192 million. I'm sure it's a beautiful, super awesome thing. Maybe there is a way to save a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and if you could reinvest that money into the classrooms again somehow, that's great. But we have to build those new schools because Bayside's 70 years old, and so is Princess Anne, and also elementary school right here. So another big thing is vocational training. A lot of kids, I still think, feel like if they don't go to college, then it's a second rate thing to do something else. And that's just not true because, first of all, you can educate yourself on anything now. You have access to almost all information.
Yeah.
So you can be as smart as somebody with a PhD if you want, just from getting free info now. That didn't used to be the case. Secondly, my dad started as a welder. He could have gone to college. He became a welder, eventually owned his own business. I just talked to somebody today and said, both my brothers became master plumbers. They built their business over a long period of time. Then they sold their businesses for millions of dollars.
Mm.
And so we have a vocational training facility, but it's on the other side of town. It takes a long time to get there. I think we should double vocational training and have a second location. The third thing has to do with, I think we need to do a better job partnering with parents. And we're going to have to partner with local businesses because in order to do doubling of vocational training, we're going to need people who are certified in welding, plumbing, electrical. This is a Hampton Roads thing. I'm an IT guy, and there's the backbone of the internet is coming right ashore here, and we're going to build 100-mile fiber optic high-speed internet loop around Hampton Roads. Well, that's going to create a bunch of jobs. And so people need to be trained how to lay fiber optic cables and do all that. That's all skilled labor, and skilled labor is in high demand. I mean, I got a donation for my campaign from a gentleman who owns a construction business, and he said, "What about vocational?" I said, "It's right there. I have it on my platform." He goes, "I need this. I don't have this and all of this." I said, "I hear you." So I'm going to go back to him and say, you need to spare some of your people some time to teach these kids how to do these things. Because if you can start at $40 an hour, I mean, that's really good money coming out of high school. And I talked to another, when I've been knocking on doors, I talked to a father. He goes, "Yeah, I work at the shipyard. We're short all over." And those shipyard jobs are good jobs. So making kids feel like they graduate high school, an average kid barely graduates high school, is not reading or doing math at his own level, doesn't feel he's not really going to college because it's not his thing. But there not enough. There is VOTEC, but there's a waiting list in Virginia Beach, and there just needs to be more, and it needs to be co-equal. Because I'm all for education, and I know we've always thought getting degrees and is the best pathway to doing it. But like, I went away to school when I was 18 for 2 years, and I had no discipline, and I had to go in the Navy. And then when I got out of the Navy, I got A's. I got all A's, a couple A's. But it made a difference. I needed some time to go do a job and be on a ship and have a little bit of hardship, because I didn't like being on a ship with back then it was just men. I didn't like that. So, yeah, those would be the main three things.
Okay. Well, those are all the questions that I have, and I don't see any questions from the audience. So, is there anything else you would like to tell us?
Well, I just hope you all, if there's anyone out there that gets the chance to vote for me, because it's all by district, I would love your vote. If you have any other questions, my website is kenlubeckvb.com, and that's got my platform. My email address is kenlub@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. And I know I have a lot to learn. I'm looking forward to working with whoever ends up on the school board and solving problems, and not I'm not there to other than the things I said that I do feel pretty strongly about, unless somebody shows me something different. I'm getting things done. I'm not interested in arguing or fighting with people that I disagree with just for I don't know what they're always doing sometimes in our school board. But I want to solve problems, because the purpose of the school system is to serve the kids, and it's to help the kids be their best self as they get through school. And the foundation is them feeling good about themselves. The teachers need to be happy about their jobs and have the tools they need, and then the kids need to learn the reading and math as kind of a baseline, and then by the time they get up to being in high school, then looking at having all the VOTEC opportunities that they could pick from, and they don't have to put on a waiting list. They don't have to get on a bus and spend 45 minutes each way to get to the other side of town to do the VOTEC stuff. Um, yeah, it just it doesn't make sense to me that a city like Virginia Beach that has such a big school budget is not able to solve these problems, and I look forward to tackling them and doing the best I can.
Okay. Well, that's all I got for you. I would like to thank you for coming to the show and sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you.
And that's it.
Thanks,
Bye.
Nina. Appreciate it.